United States of America 1979 $1, large date/small s mint mark, coin refers to the first year of issue of the Susan B. Anthony, SBA, dollar, a short-lived small-sized dollar coin that was introduced to replace the large and unpopular Eisenhower dollar, and it is an especially interesting year for collectors because of the design varieties, mint marks, production history, public reaction, and how the coin reflects America's social and economic story at the end of the 1970s. The coin features the portrait of Susan B. Anthony, the famous American suffragist who fought for women's right to vote, making it the first circulating U.S. coin to depict a real woman other than symbolic figures such as liberty. On the obverse you see Susan B. Anthony facing right, surrounded by 13 stars, the word liberty across the top, in God we trust to the right, and the date 1979 at the bottom. On San Francisco minted coins, the S mint mark appears just above the shoulder near the truncation of the bust, and this is where the key variety appears. In 1979 there are two main S styles, the Type 1 filled S, which looks thicker and sometimes appears almost blob-like, and the scarcer Type 2 clear S, which has sharper, more distinct openings inside the letter. In collector language people sometimes also call these small s or clear s, because the mint mark looks smaller, neater, and more defined compared to the bulkier Type 1. When people also talk about large date, they usually mean the normal date style that appears on the 1979 SBA dollar, unlike the wide rim/near date variety seen on some Philadelphia coins. So in your case, the coin is a San Francisco 1979 SBA dollar with the small/clear S mint mark, which is the more desirable Type 2 circulation strike variety. The reverse shows an eagle landing on the moon clutching an olive branch, based on the Apollo 11 mission insignia, with the Earth in the background and United States of America, E pluribus unum, and $1 around the design, symbolizing peace, exploration, and national pride. The coin is made not of silver but of copper-nickel clad, like modern quarters and dimes, weighing 8.1 grams, 26.5 millimeters in diameter, and with an 11-sided border, hendecagonal rim, that still leaves the central design round. This unusual rim was intended to help Americans distinguish it from the quarter by touch. Despite that effort, in everyday life people constantly confused it with a 25-cent piece because the size, color, and silver-gray look were nearly identical, so public acceptance was very poor. Banks ended up with huge stocks of unused coins, and the SBA dollar quickly became known as one of the most unpopular U.S. coins ever released. The San Francisco Mint in 1979 produced both proof coins for collectors and circulation strike dollars. The Type 2 small/clear S is scarcer, so collectors pay higher prices for well-preserved examples, especially in high mint state or proof grades with deep cameo contrast. Historically, the coin is also important because it honors the women's suffrage movement only 9 years after the Equal Rights Amendment debates, showing how coinage can reflect social change. From a numismatic viewpoint, the fun comes from learning the differences in mint marks, how to recognize the clear S variety with its crisp interior space inside the letter, and understanding how the mint experimented with smaller dollar coins long before the later golden Sacagawea and presidential dollars appeared. Even though the 1979 SBA dollar failed in circulation, it remains a fascinating piece of late 20th century American history, a symbol of technological pride through the Apollo-themed reverse, and an important milestone in honoring a real American woman on everyday currency. So your 1979 S small/clear S large date dollar sits at the crossroads of social symbolism, minting variety, and collector interest, a small coin with a surprisingly big story behind it. Next, top 2. The United States of America 1999 $1, large date with small p mint mark, coin belongs to the Susan B. Anthony dollar series, which briefly returned to production in 1999 after a 17-year pause, and it marks both the final year of issue for the series and an important transitional moment in modern American coinage. Although collectors sometimes use the phrase large date, the $1,999 generally features a standard-sized date style, and the P mint mark, which appears as a small, neat letter just above Susan B. Anthony's shoulder, indicates that the coin was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, making it one of the last circulating coins to bear Anthony's portrait before the Sacagawea golden dollar replaced it in 2000. On the obverse, the strong, determined profile of Susan B. Anthony faces right, honoring her role as a leading suffragist who devoted her life to securing voting rights for women in the United States. She had died in 1906, 14 years before the 19th Amendment passed, so her depiction on the coin represents symbolic acknowledgement of her lifelong fight for equality. The inscription's liberty across the top, in God we trust to the right, 13 stars symbolizing the original colonies, and the date 1999 at the bottom frame the portrait in a dignified, classical arrangement. On the reverse, We see the dramatic Apollo 11 mission emblem, an eagle descending to the lunar surface holding an olive branch over the cratered moon with the Earth in the background, surrounded by United States of America, E pluribus unum, and $1, a design that connects the coin to the technological triumph and optimism of the space age. Physically, the coin is copper-nickel clad, silver-colored like a quarter, measuring 26.5 millimeters and weighing 8.1 grams, with a distinctive 11-sided border that gives the rim a faceted look while keeping the center round. This feature was originally intended to help users distinguish it from smaller coins by touch, although confusion with the quarter remained widespread. The 1999 issue exists because the U.S. Treasury unexpectedly ran short of dollar coins in circulation, particularly for vending machines, transportation systems, and postal equipment, so the Mint revived the SBA design for one final year before launching the Sacagawea dollar. This sudden reissue produced strong collector interest, since there had not been a circulating SBA dollar since 1981 except for limited-use 1999 dated coins, and many examples were saved in fresh, uncirculated condition. The Philadelphia minted pieces, identifiable by that small P mint mark, were struck in large numbers, but high-grade mint state examples with sharp strikes and clean fields are still popular with collectors as the closing chapter of the series. Historically, the coin represents a bridge between eras. It preserves the legacy of honoring a real woman on circulating U.S. coinage while also highlighting the failure of the small silver-colored dollar in everyday commerce, an experience that shaped the design choices for the golden-colored Sacagawea dollar that followed. So, your 1999 P. Susan B. Anthony dollar is not just a late-century American coin, it is the graceful final note of a bold but controversial experiment in U.S. currency, combining social symbolism, space-age imagery, and minting history into one compact, silver-gray piece of metal that quietly tells the story of progress, trial, and transition in American life. Next top 3. The United States of America 2001 $1 large date with small P mint mark coin belongs to the golden-colored Sacagawea dollar series, which officially replaced the earlier Susan B. Anthony small-size dollar beginning in 2000, and the 2001 P issue represents the second year of general circulation for this new design, struck at the Philadelphia Mint, whose mint mark appears as a small, neat P, tucked just above the date on the obverse. Although collectors sometimes use the wording large date, the Sacagawea dollar of 2001 really has a standard date style, with no recognized large or small date variety like some older U.S. coins. Still, the date stands clearly and boldly beneath the portrait, giving the coin a modern, confident look in keeping with its purpose as a next-generation circulating dollar. The obverse features the serene and dignified portrait of Sacagawea, the young Shoshone woman who served as interpreter and guide for the Lewis and Clark expedition from 1804 to 1806, and she is shown in three-quarter profile turning toward the viewer's right, with her infant son John Baptiste, Pomp, resting quietly on her back, an image designed to show strength, humanity, and the often unrecognized contribution of indigenous women to American history. Surrounding her appear the inscriptions Liberty and In God We Trust, with the date 2001 below. Unlike many earlier coins, no stars crowd the field, giving the design a more open, sculptural aesthetic. The reverse carries an elegant soaring bald eagle encircled by 17 stars, representing the number of states in the Union at the time of the Lewis and Clark expedition, together with United States of America, E pluribus unum, and $1, all executed in a clean, contemporary style that reflects the Mint's goal of creating a symbolic but modern-feeling coin. Physically, the 2001 P dollar is not made of gold but of a manganese brass-clad alloy over a pure copper core, which gives it its distinctive warm golden color. It weighs 8.1 grams, measures 26.5 millimeters across, has a smooth edge, unlike later presidential dollars with edge lettering, and was intended to be easily distinguishable from the quarter in color, feel, and appearance. An important lesson learned from the confusion that plagued the earlier Susan B. Anthony dollar. The Sacagawea dollar was part of a broader late 20th century effort to encourage Americans to use dollar coins instead of paper $1 bills, since coins last much longer and are cheaper in the long run for the government to produce. However, even though the coin was technologically advanced, visually appealing, and heavily promoted, it still struggled to gain wide acceptance in daily transactions, with many pieces going straight from the mint into collectors' hands or bank storage rather than constant circulation. The 2001 P Sacagawea dollar is nonetheless historically meaningful. It continues the rare American tradition of honoring real women and indigenous figures on mainstream currency, and it reflects a nationwide conversation about identity, inclusion, and the telling of American history beyond the familiar list of presidents and founders. For collectors, the 2001 P coins are common in circulated condition but more interesting in crisp mint state, where the satin-like golden luster still flows across the surface. They also serve as an early chapter in a series that would later be renamed the Native American Dollar Program in 2009, with annually changing reverse designs celebrating Native contributions. So your 2001 Golden Dollar, with its small Philadelphia mint mark, standard bold date layout, and warm metallic glow, stands as a symbol of both tradition and change. A modern U.S. coin rooted in frontier exploration history, social acknowledgement, and the government's ongoing quest to create a durable, recognizable, and meaningful circulating dollar for everyday American life. Next top 4. The United States of America 2009 $1, large date with small d mint mark, coin belongs to the golden-colored small-size dollar program that was firmly established by 2009, and that year is especially interesting because two related dollar series were being produced side by side. The presidential $1 coins, honoring former U.S. presidents in the order of their service, and the Native American dollar, which continued the Sacagawea obverse portrait but introduced a new reverse design each year to recognize Native contributions to American history. The small D mint mark on your coin identifies the Denver Mint, and although collectors sometimes talk casually about large date, there is no officially recognized large versus small date variety for 2009 dollars. The date simply appears in its standard bold modern style. The 2009 presidential issues honored William Henry Harrison, John Tyler, James K. Polk, and Zachary Taylor, each coin bearing the president's portrait on the obverse together with Liberty, Indiana God We Trust, moved to the obverse beginning in 2009, and the date and mint mark placed on the edge along with E Pluribus Unum, while the Native American dollar displayed the familiar Sacagawea portrait with her infant son Jean-Baptiste on the obverse and introduced a completely new reverse showing a Native woman planting corn, beans, and squash, the three sisters crops that form the basis of many indigenous agricultural systems, symbolizing cooperation, balance, and sustainability. All 2009 U.S. dollars share certain physical attributes. They are 26.5 millimeters in diameter, 8.1 grams in weight, composed of a manganese brass-clad alloy over a copper core that gives them their warm golden color, and they have an edge with inkest lettering rather than a smooth rim, a feature originally intended both for visual distinction and to echo the elegance of some 19th century U.S. gold coins. The purpose of the presidential and Native American programs was not only commemorative but also educational and symbolic, encouraging Americans to encounter historical figures and cultural stories in everyday commerce, though in reality most people encountered these coins mainly through bankrolls, collector sets, transit systems, and vending machines rather than in daily cash transactions, partly because the paper $1 bill remained in widespread use, limiting circulation demand for dollar coins. For the Denver minted 2009 dollars, production numbers were healthy, and millions were struck for circulation, but many remained bright and unhandled because the public still treated dollar coins as curiosities rather than workhorse money. As a result, uncirculated mint state pieces with full golden luster are quite common. Historically and culturally, the 2009 issues occupy an important moment. They show the maturing of America's modern commemorative circulating coin program, balancing presidential remembrance with overdue recognition of native cultures, while also demonstrating the mint's ongoing challenge of persuading the public to accept coins in place of short-lived paper money. From a collector's perspective, the key points of interest on your 2009 D dollar, whether presidential or Native American, are the attractive golden surface, the neat, compact D mint mark, the precision of the strike, the sharpness of lettering on the edge, and the fact that by 2009 the design and technical execution of the program had reached a polished and confident stage. So your 2009 Denver minted U.S. $1 coin, with its standard strong date style and subtle mint mark, represents far more than a simple piece of change. It is a modern artifact of national storytelling, technological minting progress, and the continuing American experiment with circulating dollar coins, an experiment that reflects both practicality and symbolism, capturing history, culture, and identity in a radiant little disc of golden-colored metal.